Hello and welcome to another edition of Conversations of the Heart. As always, it is your boy T Till. Today we have a very special guest in the building today. Didn't see this one coming. I've known this incredible young woman for a lot of years, but she's doing some amazing things. So, life has come full circle and we're about to dive into a conversation. Welcome to the show, Naisha C. She is a behavioral health professional focused on substance use and addiction recovery. But she is a mom first. She is a mom first. And I'm looking forward to diving into that subject matter too. But she is also a source of strength for her friends and family and a very positive role model, someone who I can definitely vouch for, that she is someone that is an advocate for people who are in need. So, Naisha, welcome to the show. I appreciate you for coming on the show. Um, but before we dive into this subject matter that I'm going to introduce, for the people who don't know, and if I didn't do a good job enough of introducing you, give them a little bit more about yourself. Tell them a little bit more about yourself.
No, you did a great job. A great job. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I actually want to, before we even talk about me, I just want to tell you congratulations on 5 years of your Conversations of the Heart podcast.
Yeah,
I am so proud of you. I really didn't see this coming, but you are consistent. You are dedicated, and I know this is going to be big. So, congratulations. And I want to push you and encourage you to keep on going because you're doing great.
I
So,
appreciate you. Appreciate you.
yeah, you're welcome.
We come a long way. We come a long way.
Yeah, we come a long way. As far as me, yeah, your introduction was great. I'm a mom first. I have two sons. One is a full-fledged adult, and the
Where?
other one is, yeah, full-fledged. And the other one is, he's almost 15,
Hmm.
very mature,
Mm.
very loving, very supportive. Both of my kids are, so I'm blessed
Wow.
with that. And yes, I am a behavioral health professional. Outside of the social media world, I have real life, and I'm out here just trying to make a difference. One person at a time who struggle with addiction, whether it's drug addiction, alcoholism. I'm here to kind of get them through and get them to recovery. So, and I love it. I love it.
That's
I like to
beautiful.
see how the brain functions when it's on substances and then what it
Hmm.
looks like after.
Wow, wow. You're doing God's work, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people need, the work that you're doing. And that's healing people. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I salute you for that. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm so proud of the work that you're doing. It's absolutely necessary, especially in our community too. So salute to you, you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, so gonna dive into, some subject matter that we've both spoke on offline, off camera. We're gonna dive into a few things, relationships, marriage, motherhood, um, divorce, right? I can't wait to dive into the motherhood part about, raising boys, and get all that stuff too, because I like to hear perspectives and I really want to hear yours too when it comes to that. But we'll get to that. So, you're on a journey, right? And for people who don't, follow you, please follow her on YouTube. The links are going to be right here at the bottom, because she puts out some amazing work, some amazing content surrounding healing, recovery in terms of, now, when I mean recovery, I don't mean substance. I'm talking about emotional, right? Mental, emotional, spiritual, right? Like recovering from heartbreak, recovering from divorce, recovering, from all of those things. And she does an incredible job of that. Um, so when it comes to, we'll start here. So divorce, something that both of us know very well. Um, but from your perspective, right, you're on a healing journey. right? And I feel like you're taking us with you, right? Like when I look at your page and stuff like that, I'm like, this is the journey, right? Because some people, take us, they tell us about the healing journey, right? After they've already gone through, right? But I feel like you're taking us through the journey as you're going through it, right? So you're in the middle of your healing journey, right? So how has that journey been for you?
Oh, not easy.
Hmm.
Oh, it has been hard. I have only been divorced now almost 3 months, so almost 60 days post-divorce. I was married for 18 months,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very short time. Um,
Hmm.
and it has not been easy. You might this is my first marriage. I've never been married before. And it is a first. But one thing that I do hold on to, what my cousin actually told me this. She said, even if your marriage doesn't work out, at least you experience being a wife.
Mm.
At least you got the experience.
Mm.
So I hold on to that because I have done a great job with beating myself up. Like, was I not good enough? Was I not smart enough? Was I not pretty enough? Was I not there, supportive enough? And I had to really dive deep and ask myself, is it me? Why am I attracting things that are broken? Why am I attracting people that may have trauma? And I realized like I have my own traumas. I have my own issues that I am actively working through with therapy, journaling, cognitive behavioral therapy. And it has really, really helped me. But this path has not been easy. I have had nights where I cried.
Mhm.
I get angry. I have resentment. I think I was going through the stages of grief
Yep.
where at first you just like shocked that it happened.
Hmm.
And then you go through the part where you're like, okay, I'm blaming myself. And then you go through, I'm mad as heck. So I want payback, I want revenge. And then you go through the forgiveness. And I feel like I'm in the last stage, which is the forgiveness part. Um, and it's not even so much about forgiving him, it's forgiving myself
Mm.
for allowing certain things and devaluing myself.
Mm.
So that's the stage that I'm in. I'm in the very forgiving stage. And I actually talked about that on my YouTube channel about anger, resentment, and forgiveness and what that looks like.
Mm.
Um, and but it has not been easy. It has not.
Mm. Mm.
Mhm.
Now, there's on social media, there are hot topics and stuff like that. And I'll get to that in a second, but who initiated?
So I filed for
Hmm.
divorce.
Hmm.
Um, and the reason why is because he left me no choice.
Hmm.
He physically abandoned the marriage and emotionally abandoned the marriage. And I was doing the chasing and the saying, how do we get here? And I was met with resistance, I was
Mm.
met with avoidance, I was met with a brick wall. So really I had no choice, and I just felt like it wasn't fair to keep him or myself in a marriage that was not working. So
Understood.
I took the initiative to release him, release myself, and I just didn't. I don't know if he thought that I was really gonna go through with it,
Hmm.
because there was a moment of shock, I guess, for the both of us when the divorce was final, because it was very fast. It was very fast. Like the
Hmm.
judge was like, "Yeah, you're divorced," like today. So it took me some time to accept it, but yeah, it was only fair to release. what no longer serve me.
Man, and so, you know, social media, there's always these things of, women foul more than men, and after hearing your story though, right, obviously, it was just things where, you were left with no choice, right? And so, um, and I think that based on the conversations that, that we have had off camera, that was hard for you, you know, and it wasn't like as if you weren't trying and, going through everything that you needed to do, like you just said, right? And even once you said that, once the judge said, hey, that this is it, there was a period of shock
Yeah.
still, right? Um, and you said even for him, there was a shock, right?
Mhm.
Um, but after that initial shock, right, was there any like, well, should we then now try again, right? Because some people get divorced and get back together and remarried, and I've seen that. Was there any a point where it was like, wow, we, how did we get here? Maybe there's a path back. Was there any of that?
No, there was not.
Okay,
Um,
fair.
there was no communication even prior to the divorce. It was maybe a few instances where I thought maybe, well, really one instance where I thought we would possibly be able to bounce back from this dark place that we were in because,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, like I never wanted to be a divorcee. Like that wasn't in
Right.
that was
Nobody goes
never in
into it.
my plan. Like who
Right.
like when I love anybody that knows me knows when I love and when I'm with you, I'm with you. I'm riding with you all the way through.
Hmm.
Um, I guess that's the Sagittarius in me. We're very loyal people. But
Hmm.
at the same time, it's like, how much can I do?
Hmm.
When I had no line of communication to him. Like even when I was still legally married to him, he blocked my number.
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
was like, you know, I started getting out of character,
Hmm.
doing things that was just not within my character. I really felt like I was losing my mind, my
Hmm.
entire mind. And once it got to that point, and that's another reason why I said I'm filing these papers, because once your mental stability is compromised and you start doing things that are not within your character and you're literally losing your mind, it's time to let go.
Hmm.
Because now I have sons to think about, and they have a mother that they love on dearly. So if I'm out here being reckless because I'm trying to hold on to something that God is forcing me out of, I had to stop and I had to just say, you know what, God, I surrender.
Hmm.
I surrender.
Hmm.
And that was hard. That was hard because my ex-husband and I always said to each other that no matter how hard things got, even if we decided that we no longer wanted to remain married, that we would be friends.
Hmm.
Um, and no matter what, we would always be really good friends. And that's, I think, what kind of broke my heart the most because that didn't happen. We're
Hmm.
not friends. We don't speak. We have no line of communication to each other. Um, and it almost made me feel like, well, dang, you couldn't even hold up that,
Hmm.
but through the process, I still was his wife. I remained graceful through the whole process. And I walked with grace to the very end.
Hmm. Hmm. And sometimes that's tough to do because sometimes the human part of us wants to do something different, want to uh, really change the narrative on things and talk and maybe say certain things, do certain things out of character. Like you said, so, and you thought yourself getting to that place.
Yeah.
Um, so after all of that, the dust has settled and it's over, right? What was that process, right? Because losing or like divorcing someone can depending on, can feel like a death, right?
Yes.
For some people, for a lot of people, right? And maybe for some people not. Everybody takes things differently. But for some people, divorce, it is a death, and then there is a grief, like we said, the grief process, the stages of grief, um, the acceptance, the denial, right? The anger, right? Like a lot of those things are happening all at once, right?
Yes.
So as you're now divorced, right? Month one, right? How did that process start for you? Like the grief part.
Um, well, it started even prior to day one.
Mm,
I think I remember, okay, so I'm 5'8". I've always been a tall girl.
yes.
Um, and you know, I would like think to say I carry my weight pretty well, but I was so stressed out that I ended up going from 155 pounds down to 137 pounds
Nah,
at
nah,
five
and
foot
nah, for
eight.
real. And I can attest to that. Now, like I was getting, like when I saw you, I was like, yo, what is your regimen? Like I was getting ready to be like what is your? I said, because I said, yo, like, but like, and you was looking, in terms of like I thought that you was just getting your health and wellness on, and you was getting that going, and I was like, yo, like she dropped. I'm like, okay, all right, she's on her health and wellness, right? But it was
That
it
was
was
stress.
it was stress.
That was stress. And when I'm under a lot of stress, I tend to avoid food. Like if I miss a meal, I can drop weight quickly. And I
Wow.
went through that point. I literally looked like I felt like I was dying physically, mentally. I mean, it got to a point where I was at such a low place that I'm here. I'm just
Mm-hmm. Take your time.
um
Take your time. This is a safe space. We here.
whew, um I hate talking about. Okay, sorry, I had to.
Hey,
Um,
this is
see,
conversations of the heart.
this is
It's real out
the
here.
stages of grief, right? You don't know what's
Yes.
gonna
Yeah,
happen.
it's real. It's raw.
um,
Absolutely.
it got to a point where I was so low that I laid in a bathroom for hours. And my son, at the time, he thought that something severely was wrong with me because I wasn't moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, he got really scared. In his mind, he probably thought his mom was not alive. But that's how depressed I was at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
I eventually came out of it with his
Mm-hmm.
help.
That's
My
what's
son has been my strength. Boy, let me tell you
Shout
how
out
my
to your son.
son,
Big shout out. So salute.
Xavier, has been my strength through all of this. And he picked me up off that floor. And when I tell you, he spoke so much life into me that day, I knew I had to go on.
Mm,
And from that day, I never went back to that dark place again. Um, I also prayed a lot. I remember there were moments where I was on my kitchen floor in the house by myself and I was crying and I was talking to God. Like I was just surrendering
mm,
to everything that He wanted me to do. And I say, God, I don't understand what you're doing right now, but I surrender.
mm,
If this marriage was not for me, you have shown me every sign, every thing I needed to know, and I kept ignoring you. But God, I am no longer ignoring you. I am surrendering.
mm,
And when you can surrender to the God of your understanding, it creates a sense of stillness, and that's my mantra. Like every day I wake up, I ask God to keep me grounded, covered, and still.
mm,
Um, every day I wake up, I choose me. And that has become my mantra.
mm,
And that for me was the turning point to my healing journey. Once
mm,
I finally surrendered, and God was like, "All right, daughter,
mm,
we gonna walk this journey together."
mm. One, shout out to Xavier. Big salute. Um, so you mentioned like your faith walk and how that started. Do you feel like this experience has brought you closer to God, or like were you always just close to God? But
Yeah, I mean, I always grew up with a sense of spirituality.
mm-hmm,
I was raised that way
mm-hmm,
my whole life. But I think
mm-hmm.
as I got older and life started happening, like, and I was really out here in these adult world streets,
Ghetto streets.
I had to understand, like, there's been situations that I have been in, and I know the only reason why I got out of those situations is because of God.
Wow.
And it didn't matter what I was going through. I mean, getting a divorce, not knowing how I'm gonna really pay all my bills, like I'm just being candid.
Yeah.
I got big bills. I don't got little girl bills. I got big bills. So, I had to be like, okay, how am I going to manage and navigate all of these bills by myself now? Like, it was very scary for me. But when I
Mm,
tell you, I was praying and asking God, I mean, he was making a way. I mean, making a way. And I ain't struggled since. I feel like my life has actually gone up since all of this has happened. I've dived into trying to help others heal, whether it's family issues, relationship issues, work
mm,
related issues. I feel like I have been called to do humanitarian work in whatever capacity that might look like. Um, but my life is up, and it's gonna always continue to be up because of the God that I serve, you know?
mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. And even though, like you said, like it's been about 4 months, right? And
Yeah, 3 months.
yeah, about 3 months. And even though it seems like it's early in your healing journey, but
Mhm.
it feels like you've already come through a lot,
Yeah.
right? It feels like you've got a lot of understanding and wisdom and awakenings and realizations, right? Of
Mhm.
even maybe just, who you are, how powerful you are, right? Like what your calling is, like you said, um, and your empowerment journey, right? I see
Yeah.
you like empowering and uplifting others. I mean, you've always been doing that in the behavioral health world, right? But I mean, but now taking it outwardly, right, in other realms, um, to be a voice,
Yeah.
right? To people who may not have a voice, right? Or who may not know that they have a voice, right? Because depending on the marriages that you get, and I don't care if it's men or women, sometimes you may not feel like you have one, right? And there are things that have gone on to where they might hear your voice, right? And
Mhm.
be like, oh, she's speaking for me. Like she sees me.
Mhm.
I've been where she is, and there is a way out. There is a way forward. And in some situations, it feels like there is no way forward. Like it feels like in some situations, I mean, for you it was 18 months, it was quick. Some people I've been married 18 years
Right.
and are and
Right.
are leaving situations, right? And
Mhm.
to that person, it may feel like I don't know what to do, right? I'm coming out of this thing 18 years, what the heck is next, right? Like you're in it probably in advanced stage in life, age, and
Mhm.
now the questions are, will somebody love me again at this age? And
Yes.
there's so many different situations when it comes to divorce and age and things like that.
Yeah.
You, as you're elevating your voice, right?
Mhm.
As you're doing more podcasts, as you're doing more videos, people are gonna hear you and be like, "Hey, she can do it. I can do it. She sees me." And I think that is an amazing thing when it comes to healing, right? So
Yeah.
even through your tears and your trials and your tribulations and what you've endured, it's going to birth healing for other people. And
Yeah.
that is an amazing thing. And that's why I'm so proud of you.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for those gentle words of encouragement. And the thing about it is, like, I was that girl behind the screen watching other women, watching
Mm,
other uh platforms of discussions surrounding heartbreak, surrounding divorce.
mm,
And I was able to look at those women and say, wow, she is me and I am her. And I am not alone in experiencing this, right? My life is
mm,
over. It's like, I guess for me, I thought like, oh my goodness, I gotta feel marriage now. I gotta start over again. And who's gonna wanna, like, I don't wanna do this. But then when you hear other women talk about what they've been through and how resilient they are,
mm,
I saw myself in a lot in some of those women, and I was like, hey, if they can do it, I can do it.
mm.
And yes, I can do it. And
Yeah.
now what I've learned and realized about myself, and I actually talked about this in one of my other videos on YouTube, that, you know, we often blame ourselves and we say, you know, what inside of me was broken. And I don't want to
Mm,
speak those negative words. I don't want to say that because I'm not broken. I'm human.
mm.
I'm human. And
Yeah.
what I will never tolerate is an unhealthy dynamic. Anything that irregulates my nervous system, anything that doesn't align with safeness, real love, divine spirituality, um emotional awareness, empathy, sympathy, if it does not align, I do not want it. Return to sender, because the work that I am putting in and doing, I refuse to sacrifice that for something that does not align. And this is the reason why I said, whomever God has for me will have to be divinely created by his hands. Um, because if I get an inclination of behavior that is just, and I don't like to use the word toxic, but it's not conducive to my mental stability, I'm going to
Hmm.
cut the cord quickly. And it's not to say you have to be perfect, because I'm not perfect, we're not perfect. I can meet someone where they are, but I'm also not going to drop my standards to the ground and feel like I should be pouring more into that person than they're pouring into me, because I'm not your personal therapist. I am a therapist, but I'm not your personal therapist. And we should be pouring into each other.
Mm,
So
hmm.
yeah, at this stage in my life, there is nothing, I'm not going to allow nothing to interrupt this space and
Hmm.
what I've created to be a gentle life for myself.
Mm. So, but you said something there where I think it's important to point out because when people go through things, they go from one end of the spectrum to the other, right? And so they go from allowing too much to allowing nothing. But what you said is they don't have to be perfect. I can meet them, still meet them where they're at. And I think that's very mature because a lot once somebody gets hurt, it becomes I'm building the wall.
Yeah.
Nobody can penetrate this thing. And it goes from one extreme to, well, I allowed all of this stuff to now I'm not allowing anything, right?
Yep. Mhm.
And that's still a problem,
Yeah, it is.
right?
Mhm.
So I think it's very important what you just said there, because there's somebody that's going to need to hear that and say, hey, because they might be saying, you know what? I'm in my software era. I'm not allowing this, that, and third. He got to be this. Not understanding. Okay, you're still, no matter what you've been through, you're still imperfect. So
Yeah, that's
somebody's going to have to take something from you, right? And accept it, right? And work with it, right? That is facts because we're all imperfect people. So I thought that was super important what you said, and I wanted to highlight that because you didn't go from all the way left to all the way right. You went from all the way left to maybe you're in the middle, right?
I
Where
am.
I think the middle is always the sweet spot,
It
right?
is.
Um, so that's super mature and super amazing of you. So in your process with healing and growing and things like that, if there was a young lady out there, there's gonna be two questions, so I'll start with this. If there was a young lady out there right now, um, who's looking at getting married, right? What piece of advice, if they came up to you and say, "Hey, now look, I'm thinking about getting married in like 6 months to a year, 18 months, whatever the case is, what advice you have for me?" What would you tell her?
Oh man, I would tell her to one, to do individual and couples counseling prior to your marriage. You definitely need counseling, whether that's from a spiritual advisor, a real behavioral health therapist, a marriage counselor. You definitely need to have counseling. Um, and again, even your own individual therapy, your future spouse, yourself, is important. And that's where I failed because we did not have premarital counseling, even though I wanted it. It was kind of shot down a bit. So that's where I went wrong. And I don't ever want a young lady to make that mistake. And I also want her or him to pay attention. Pay attention to the signs. If you notice that your partner is not sensitive to your
Mm,
needs, or supportive of your dreams and aspirations, um, have that conversation. And I feel like if you can tell someone how what they may or may not be doing is affecting you and they can fix it right away, that's somebody that you want to stay with, right? That's somebody that you want to grow with because they hear you, they see you, they feel you, and they respect you, and they're willing to fix what is harming you, whether it's emotionally or mentally. They're willing to fix that. But if it's someone that just you tell them how you feel, it goes in one ear, out the other, you need to be very aware because if you're talking about spending the rest of your life with someone who
mm,
can't even lead themselves, how are they going to lead you? Like you can be
mm,
a submissive person, right? You can be submissive to your husband. That's what you're supposed to do. And as a wife, you're supposed to be supportive. You're supposed to be there. You're supposed to kind of submit and let your husband lead. But if he can't lead himself, where you going? Why would you want to be with someone like that? So he can lead the both of you off of a cliff? I don't think
mm, mm.
no.
And these are hot topics in terms of like submission, right? That's a
Yeah.
hot topic scorching through social media, right?
Yes.
Um, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on it because people are already doing that.
Yeah.
And I think for the fellas, sometimes when men like, especially when it comes to financial things like that, right? I think there are multiple ways. I could be wrong, but I think there are multiple ways to lead, right? To be a head of the household, right? Right? Because just because you're financially okay, right? And let's just say you have a guy, he's financially stable and he's paying all the bills,
Mhm.
doesn't mean you're head of the household. Doesn't mean you're a leader. It means you're paying all the bills. But you could be still be leading your family off of a cliff.
Absolutely.
Like you can still be leading your wife somewhere completely left, right? There's a reason why millionaires are still getting divorced.
Right.
People are getting divorced. People who don't have to pay for a lot. People, there are men out there who have a lot of money still getting divorced, right? And I think a lot of times people view, and even women sometimes view leadership as financial, right? And it can get them into bad situations to where they don't want to be in, controlling, manipulative, abusive, right? You've got to see what a man's vision is, right? Whether he has $100 million in the bank or $1,000 in the bank. What is his vision? Mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, right?
Absolutely. You hit the head, all three. Yep.
And because there's a lot of these things 50-50, 100-100, this and that, like numbers, everything is numbers, money, right? But nobody's talking about a person's soul, like their
Woo!
emotional intelligence. We don't talk about this.
Woo!
We talk about who's splitting the 50-50 on the rent. This is all we talk about. This is all we talk about, especially as a community. This is all we talk about. 50-50, 100-100. Who's paying the rent? Who's paying the bill? I'm not doing this if I don't do that. It's almost like the same type of rhetoric every
Yeah.
show that I'm watching, every post, right? But I'm
Mhm.
like, we need to talk about some different things, right? Just because you got a man that's paying 100% of the bills could still be leading you somewhere you don't want to be, right? And then some people say, "Oh, well, I'd rather cry in a belly." Yeah, I don't rather cry at all, right?
Right. That part. I want to cry it
Like,
off.
like, and
Mhm.
when you said, right, that alignment,
Yes.
right,
Yes, that's important.
and I feel like people get married for different reasons, right? A lot of people don't get married for alignment. People get married for either it could be for status, it could be for money. Oh, well, he pays this, so he's mine, right? But it's like, is this man gonna go upside your head? Like, is like what is going on, right? Because there's so many different things out there that are happening with women and men, abusive situations, people who are not on the same wavelength. It could be mentally, emotionally, right? And then also the truth is, and these are the facts. He could be paying your bills for 10 years straight. But what are you gonna like him if one day he can't? If one day he cannot, if for medical, this, that, people are losing their jobs left and right
True.
in this economy. These last 3 or 4 years, people have been losing their jobs, and it's taken them almost 9 to 12 months. And these are people with degrees and high
Yep.
level degrees. They're taking them 9 to 12 months to even find a job. Do
Yep.
you like your husband enough, right, to go through that with him as well? Right? Because it's all good to boast when people have it, right? Or when they're on, right? But with that alignment shift, if you can't, right? Because what you were talking about and what we're talking about is mental, emotional, spiritual too. Because that to me is going to sustain, right? A marriage when you go through different trials and tribulations, could be physical, could be financial, whatever that is, right? And I think we've got to view leadership in multiple ways versus just these one facet of a conversation, right? And to that, what do you say?
So for me, leadership, it looks in alignment looks a lot different. Um, in a marriage, the God of your understanding is supposed to lead first. It's a tier to this
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
The God of your understanding. it's your husband, it's your wife, and then it's your children, right? So if my husband is not speaking to the God of his understanding, meaning he's not going to his Bible, his Quran, his Torah, whatever spiritual entity the household believes in, if he is not going to that, because that is where he's getting his answers from to be able to bring it to his wife so that they can sit down and rectify whatever barriers are there, that's where you mess up because you're leaning on your own understanding. And
Hmm.
we're perfect humans. You cannot lean on your own understanding. You have to go to the God of your understanding. Pray about it. Ask God, what do I do in this situation? And guarantee you, He's going to show you. This is a three cord strand, not two. It's not
Mm,
husband and wife. It's God, husband, wife. And
mm,
He is the bind that keeps everything together. But if there is no sense of spirituality, you all are
mm,
not praying together. You are not, having any kind of spiritual alignment. It's not going to work. And that is what was also another issue
mm,
in my marriage. There was no spiritual alignment. And that's why I said, whomever God has for me has to be divinely created by his hand.
mm,
Not perfect,
mm-hmm,
but divinely created by his hands. And that looks like, you know, can we have a emotionally, not emotionally, can we have a effective line of communication with each other? Because
mm-hmm,
we can
mm,
talk to each other, but it doesn't, is this effective? And if we see that we're having a conversation and it's not going anywhere, is my husband going to be the leader and say, you know what? We have to put a pin in this conversation because it's not working and we're both becoming in distress. So I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to go and pray about this and we can reconvene this at another time when cooler heads can prevail.
mm,
That's the type of respect.
mm-hmm,
That type of talk right there would make me probably forget the whole argument even happened
mm-hmm,
and be like, you know what? I'm sorry, baby. Whatever it is, like let's just get because he has now given me safe, safe communication and say, hey, I see what's hurting the both of us. I'm gonna put a plug in this and let me go talk to our head and I'll get
mm-hmm,
back at you.
mm-hmm.
That's
So,
love.
there's two things that you hit on that I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
First thing is, like you said, when it comes to leaning out on your own understanding, right? So, what if you're in a situation, right, where man's making good money, paying for everything. You in your soft girl era, yeah, 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 right? And then, right, you guys get into it, and the whole thing about leaning out on your own understanding. But he's a person that says, "Listen, I run almost $1 million company. I make good decisions every day. I pay all the bills here, right? You good? You in your soft girl era. Why are you questioning me? Like, I make good decisions every day of my life. I'm him. I'm him, right? Because,
Oh,
and the reason why I'm bringing this up and
mhm.
saying it like that is because there are a lot of people, women, who are in these dynamics, right? What would you say in that headspace, like in that? How would you respond to something like that?
Well, because naturally I'm spicy anyway.
That's why I wanted to ask the question.
I'm
That's why
a
I
I'm a
wanted to ask.
I'm a hot chili pepper.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would have to pull his coattail for a second and say, hey, 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 understand. that I make money too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
Mm-hmm.
about the money. It's about the fact that you are an imperfect human being and we all make mistakes and we all, you know, have corrections that can be made. So if I'm telling you the money has nothing to do with what I'm telling you is causing harm. So that's what I need you to see. And if you can't rectify the harm that's being done, then we have a bigger problem. Because
Mm-hmm.
this is not about money. That for me feels like ego talking. And we have to remove the ego, remove the pride, remove all of that
Yep.
and say, hey, my wife is feeling harmed. She's feeling unloved in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Let me remove my ego and see what happened. Because it may not even be him, right? It could just be a situation. It could be something from my own past. It could be anything. But
Mm.
if you're being dismissive to how I'm feeling, then we have a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Remove the ego, remove it, remove the ego and pride.
And
It's
as
terrible.
as much as statistically, there are other things that, kill a marriage. I think pride and ego are like among like the top of the list, right? I know statistically there's other things and blah blah blah, but it starts with there though. Those are like the seeds right there, and it
Mhm.
just goes left, right, up and down, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing you mentioned the hierarchy. Another topic, where it's God, you know, and then the big discourse that comes in social media all the time
Mhm.
is after God, normally kids,
No.
right? No, I know, but this is the big thing on social media, right? It's God and then the kids, then my husband. You know what I mean? Like or God, kids and then my wife, right? Kids always are gonna come first, right?
Kids don't know. Yeah, no.
Especially when it comes in, and sometimes from if they have kids outside of the marriage or this or that third, like if they had kids beforehand, well, my kids were here first, and this is just it becomes a lot of that stuff, right? So why, and I'm asking this because you have two kids, right? And it's almost rare for me to hear, especially, no offense, a woman, a mother saying this, right? It's normally the mama bears that are like, oh no, it's my babies. It's my babies over him all day, like all day, every day. It's my babies over him, right? So why do you feel husband
Well,
children?
when you can, okay. So of course, naturally, yes, I'm a lioness when it comes to my children.
Yes.
But I also have to understand one of my children is an adult. He's grown.
Mm,
So, I've raised him to the best of my ability. He is, he's very respectful. Um, he's not out here knocking people over their heads. He's not in jail. He don't got baby
hmm
mamas. He don't even have no kids.
hmm
Which is great for me. But I think when you're married and it's safe, the kids are gonna naturally fall in line anyway. They're gonna fall in place because they're gonna understand, like, okay, whether it's stepdad, stepmom, they're gonna see a healthy relationship.
mm,
They're gonna see, oh, mom is serving dad, or I mean stepdad, or mom is nurturing the home. She's catering to her husband, but she's also still giving me attention. She's not neglecting me, right? I think it's just it'll naturally fall in its place. So I'm not a whole believer of my kids come over before my husband. Yes, my kids are gonna always be my kids,
yeah, of course.
right? They're gonna always be my kids,
Yeah.
and they're never gonna lack for nothing. I'm gonna
Mm,
love them. continue to love on them. But in a marriage, it's an order. And my kids understood that order. Now, whether my youngest son approved of it or not, or was comfortable with it or not, that's what the order was.
Mm.
Yeah, so I don't really
Okay.
I'm not neglecting my children. I'm still
No,
loving them,
of
Like
course.
I'm being a wife. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a wife to the best of
Yeah.
my ability.
Yeah. And nobody, I mean, especially me here, I would never, you are a good mother and you never neglect your kids, but there's always this thing of like, if you don't put them first, then you're neglecting them. And it's like, that's not the case. Because one day, these kids are gonna grow up and out,
Right.
and you're gonna be lonely.
Right.
Or
I'm
trying to
still
hold
holding.
on to what you
Right.
left, or try to hold on to
Right.
them.
To them, and they're not living their lives. Please, yes. So,
Yeah. Hmm. That's beautiful. So, on speaking of motherhood, right? What is your experience like raising two boys? Because in my household, it was two boys and no sisters, right? No girls. So like what is like the experience of raising two boys who are almost both grown, one almost on the way?
on the
What's that
way.
experience like for you?
I had my first son. I was really young. I was still in high school when I had him, and this is no way am I advocating teen pregnancy. No. But I'm just telling my truth. That was hard. But one thing I will say is that my oldest son has always been like my book bag. So he went everywhere I went. I always made sure that he was safe. He had a home. He never saw me like running the streets or different people, different men in his face, and he never saw any of that. And then when my second child came along, his dad kind of pretty much became like a father figure to my oldest son, because he was in my oldest son's life when my oldest son was 8. So my oldest son now is almost 25,
Hmm.
which is wild crazy.
Wild.
But right. So that also helped me in a lot of ways because he was really, there um to kind of pick up the pieces and help me raise him. And don't get me wrong, like my oldest son's dad did the best that he could, do, and he and I are good friends to this day. But I love being a boy mom. It's not easy, but one thing I will say is that I noticed in my youngest son, because he's always been very protective over me and very
Hmm.
close to his father. Um, and that's all he saw. My
Hmm.
youngest son was me and his father. So he's never seen me with anyone else. And I could tell that once things changed, and I ended up getting with this other person and I got married. My son was, I don't think he was happy at all. And I could tell through his behavior. I could tell just in a lot of things he was not happy. And now I see a shift, right? Because it's just
Hmm.
me. And my son is completely different. Like he's allowed his got his guards to just completely come down. And I noticed that. So that's why I'm so selective now, especially now, because he's almost 15. And yes, he wants me to be happy. Both my kids want me to be happy.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I want them to also be happy.
Hmm.
I want them to have a relationship with whomever I am with. And that hasn't always been the case,
Hmm.
because of what my son see me go through. And maybe his nervous system was irregulated too. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
kids see everything. Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely see a shift in his mood and his behavior. He knows that this sanctuary is for me and him. And nobody is going to be able to interrupt that. And now I can take myself and not only pour into me, but pour back into him a
Mm,
thousand times more.
mm. And that's a great thing. And when it comes to what you teach your kids, well, your son, okay, kids, these boys, these men, um, about women, because sometimes I feel like people teach their children about relationships based out of the trauma that they've endured
Yeah.
in relationships, right? So then you have, people growing up having, distorted views of the opposite sex, right? And or overcompensating for things, right? Because of how their parent taught them, right? So what are you teaching your sons about relationships and women, um, and then also about themselves, about how and also how to protect themselves, right? Like what's that like?
So my oldest son was in, a high school little relationship, but then it ended
Yeah.
up going all the way through their adulthood.
Wow.
And he and I had a conversation one day, and he was like, Ma, I love X and Y and Z, but it's just toxic. And I'm like, you don't need to be in a toxic relationship because you are comfortable. You're choosing comfort over growth. And
Mm,
I made those same mistakes of having that codependency kind
mm,
of relationship.
mm,
Now my son is very very cautious of the kind of women that he dates. He
mm-hmm,
has, certain standards. He has certain requirements. Because, when he loves on you, he loves on you, but he doesn't
mm,
want to be used and made to feel, less than. And even now with my youngest son, that one is a little bit that's a tough cookie right there. Because his dad really has more of a major role in raising him surrounding like women and stuff, and dating. So I just tell my sons, like, date somebody that's like your mama, smart, got it together, can be loving and kind, but got a little spice to her, just a little bit.
mm-hmm,
And they know. My
mm-hmm,
kids are very, very aware. And
mm-hmm.
of course, they're gonna have to learn on their own as well. They're gonna have to experience heartbreak. They're gonna have to
Yeah.
experience, what that feels like, what that looks like. And I can't be the protector all the time. They're going to have
Right.
to go through these things. It's a part of life, it's a part of growing up. But I want them to also be cautious and understand that they are too worthy. Just because you are a male doesn't make you less worthy than a
Ooh.
woman's feelings or a woman's
Mm,
emotions. You are worthy.
mm,
So yeah, that's kind of like what I pour into my sons. Like, you're worthy.
mm-hmm.
You're worthy.
And it's good to know that you're raising them with standards because nowadays, if a man
Mhm.
has standards, he's labeled sassy, right?
Oh, right. I
If
heard
a
that
man
term.
has status, I'm
I was
like,
like,
come on, man.
what?
Like what are we doing out here, man?
Right.
And I think a man is supposed to have a set of standards, for himself, right? I think for a lot of years, I think, like I said, it goes too far left, too far right, right? And it's like for a lot of years, it's like, oh, as long as they sex me good and feed me, that's all I need, right? But I think now men are realizing, nah, I'm gonna need a little bit more. I'm, I'm I'm gonna need a
A
smidge
lot
bit
more.
more than just that because one, a lot of men are cooking nowadays. They chefing it up. They don't need people to cook. You know, it's what it is, right? What else? You know what I mean? So a lot of men are like, yeah, I want some peace. I want certain things like beyond just those two things, right? That I'm getting, right? Because the truth is, sometimes in marriage, one of them things stops, or the frequency of them things stop, and sex and certain things. So now you're left with just food. And at some point, it's like, what else am I, are you getting, right? And I think a lot of men now are realizing, nah, I'm gonna need something a little bit more besides just those two things out of life, right? And out of a marriage, right? And it seems like, especially like your oldest one, is on his way, and he's got his list, and
Yeah,
y'all gotta come correct. Y'all gotta
right,
come correct out there
right.
in these streets,
And he
you
doesn't
know.
have kids, so he's like, I'm not trying to deal with no
That's the
24,
flex.
23 that got a whole bunch of kids. He don't even want to deal with you if you got one kid. And hey, listen, that's
Yo,
his choice,
listen.
you know?
As
Um,
somebody that has tried it when I didn't have a kid,
mhm.
it it, it is a lot,
Right.
right? It is a lot to deal with, right? When you don't have that responsibility, right? But you're also trying to take the responsibility seriously,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
But you're still not person's father, right? So it puts you in some real interesting type of positions and things that's hard and stressful, right? For someone who doesn't have a child, especially at that
At
young
that
age,
young age. Yeah.
right?
That young.
So I salute that, to the young king. Yes,
Right.
don't do it right now, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Like you got all the time in the world to try it. You know what I'm saying? To see what that's like later on down the road, if whatever it gets a little older and cool. But right now, you're 25. Ooh,
Right.
wee.
Young.
You in your
Young.
prime, boy.
Right. Live your life.
Ooh, in your
Slow it down.
prime, bro.
Live your life. Yeah,
Hey,
but for
stretching
me,
already.
right.
Ooh, 25. Oh,
Right.
yes, indeed. That is a
Right.
nice age right there. I'm trying to tell
Mhm.
you.
To be
Um,
25 again.
to
Hmm.
be 25 again.
Right. Right.
That's a whole nother podcast for another day. But
Okay. Right.
caught a couple flashbacks up in here. But to be so, the second question I was going to ask from earlier was if there was a woman out there who says, "Listen," because we did the first one about to be married.
Yeah.
Now if this is a woman out there that says, "Nah, I've tried, I've done all I could, and I think it's time, for a divorce."
Mm.
What would you tell
I would tell her to pray
them?
because my answers didn't come from as someone who tried everything. I mean, everything.
Mm-hmm.
When you pray and specifically ask God to reveal what is for you and not for you, He will.
Mm,
And before I even drafted my divorce papers and filed them, I prayed and I asked God, I said, God, if this marriage is for not for me,
mm-hmm.
please remove me from it. And if it is for me, I want you to do everything in your power to block what I'm about to do right now because I know that the devil loves. Oh, he loves when marriages don't work. He was back there applauding, right? But also, you have to pray. And I'm not in a position to tell a woman to leave their spouse. I
Mm-hmm.
would never ever tell somebody you need to leave your husband. I mean, now if it's a hostile environment and he's knocking you upside the head and,
Mm-hmm.
then absolutely. that's you need to do self-preservation and exit that. But
Right.
if it's not that and it can be worked out in the form of, counseling, therapy, you know, um, deep dive and whatever it is, do everything you possibly can do. But when you go to God in prayer and you have the deepest conversation with God, he is going to put it on your heart and reveal to you what you are supposed to do.
Mm,
So for me to tell a woman, hey, leave your husband, no, you will never hear those words from me. I will tell her, you need to pray and you
mm,
need to have a deep conversation with God. You need to write down what you're feeling in terms of what's happening. And he is going to reveal exactly what you need to do. That happened for me. I mean, I'm only telling you my testimony because when I
mm-hmm,
prayed about this, I felt like at some point God was forcing me out of this because there was so many signs that he kept
mm,
showing prior to the marriage. He
mm-hmm,
showed me signs, in the marriage, he was showing me signs, and I just was walking blindly, like, no, I'm in love. I'm a wife. I'm in love. And God is like, okay, you're not going to listen? All right. So now I'm going to break you down and I'm going to forcefully remove you because you're holding on to something. And I got something so much bigger and better for you, but you hold
mm,
on. You keep holding on. And I've showed you the signs. I've showed them to you and you're just not paying attention. So
mm,
he had to spiritually break me. He had to break me. And I'm still being pieced together. So I'm almost afraid. T, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm almost afraid to see what I'm gonna look like when God is finished with me.
That's
I'm
gonna be a
almost
beautiful thing. It's gonna be a beautiful
right.
thing. Um, and so earlier you also mentioned the importance of premarital and then also um, both parties seeking, individual therapy as well. I
Yeah.
don't know why, this, I got this hat. I mean, you know, it's, I mean,
Just
these,
saying.
these are the facts, right? Like these are the facts, right?
Right.
I I am very heavy therapy focused.
Oh,
Um, and I always say before premarital, y'all need individual therapy,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And the truth is, and I've spoken to so many amazing therapists in my life, not as a patient, but um, as like it's almost like like I study this stuff, like I study, and I pick brains a lot, and I've been and for me, I've been consistently in therapy individually,
Me too.
and the one thing across the board that a lot of therapists have told me is a lot of times the first stint of a man when they go to therapy is when their girlfriend or wife is dragging them to therapy, couples therapy, right?
Mhm.
And is saying, we're gonna fix you, right? That's their first introduction to therapy. And at that point, they're turned off,
I think because it can be traumatizing. You
right?
can't just throw somebody in therapy. You have to ease them into it, and it starts with them. They have to want to address one, they have to be ready to address whatever traumas that they may have because we all have traumas and it stems from our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how perfect you may think your childhood was or oh I lived, we all have some form of trauma. From
Yes.
age 0 to 5, that is when the brain is developing. And it's like a sponge. It's taking in everything. Everything is being absorbed through the brain from birth to age 5. So we all have childhood trauma. But
Mm-hmm.
are we ready to face that trauma? There's a little girl inside of me right now that's still struggling with abandonment issues.
Mm.
There's a little girl in me that's still struggling to feel like she always has to please,
Mm, mm, mm.
her family, or
Yeah.
if I mess up, am I going to be judged? I'm very critical about
Mm-hmm.
myself, but I started to give myself grace, and that was through therapy. So you can't just throw somebody in there. They have to be willing to do it on their own first before they can get to the couples part.
Right. And also how it's being framed also is super important because for me, nobody can put me in therapy and say, I'm taking you to therapy to fix you. Because couples therapy, it's not about me. It's about us. Right.
Absolutely.
And and speaking to a lot of different therapists, they're like, a lot of men don't want to go to therapy. You know why? Because their wife is pretty much going to them and telling them, I'm taking you to therapy to fix you,
Hmm.
not us, you. So if you're
Hmm.
telling someone pretty much, we're going there because you are always the problem and it's never me, it's always you, why would somebody want to go
Right.
and
And
pay for it and
right, that
pay
part. And
and a lot of money to do it too?
yes,
When you could just tell me it's my fault for free. Like you might as well just tell
I
me,
feel
okay,
my
cool, it's my
insurance.
fault.
Right.
Right? Like so it's like
Mhm.
how people frame things and how
Yeah.
people use therapy as a weapon also,
Hmm.
that also plays a role in why people, a lot of men don't want to go because you're using this also as a weapon, right? So you know what? I'm good. I don't want to go, right? And so I always tell men like, if you go to individual therapy, that can never happen to you because you'll know what it's supposed to be. You'll know
Yeah.
what it's supposed to sound like, and nobody's ever going to manipulate you into pulling that with you because you know for a fact what therapy is, what it's supposed to do for both of you, not one of you. And if one person is telling you that they're bringing you to therapy to fix you, you may have the wrong person, Pop.
Right.
Like you may have the wrong person on your hands. So that's why also individual therapy is so, I say, critical for men so they can understand what it is, see what it's supposed to be, and understand that couples therapy is not about just you. It's about the unit, right? And how
Absolutely.
can you make this better? And how can you grow your unit? How can you heal your unit together, right? And it's not about just you. Because if it's all about you, then that's what individual therapy is for. And then you might as well just go back to individual therapist,
Exactly. And the
right?
funny part is, I used to write things down, like sit my ex-husband down, and I would ask him questions, like five or six questions, why did you get married? What is it that I can do better as a wife to be better for you and for us? What do you think you can do better as a husband to be better for you and for us?
Mm.
And it's like, some of those questions, were answered, and then some was just like, oh, you're good. You're almost like a perfect wife, and I'm like, nobody's perfect,
You know why? He didn't want that spice to come out. You know
no, he don't
why?
like to you.
You know, because sometimes when men honestly answer questions honestly, it turns into a war. It turns, especially when we didn't ask the question, right? So imagine somebody coming to you asking you a question and you think it's a safe space to answer. You answer it honestly, and then now they looking to now destroy you verbally, or now they're
True,
crying and not like
true.
now it's like, I, hey man, like I was perfectly okay with just sitting here watching the game, I, minding my business. Like I was perfectly
Right.
okay. You
Yeah,
asked the question and you said you wanted an honest answer. I'm giving you the answer. Now either you're crying or you're telling me about what I did 2 years ago, or you're mowing me down about what I don't do. And it's like, I,
and I think he felt that. He felt that at times, and that's why I had to sometimes just like back off and give him grace, because I didn't want him to feel the spice. And that's where I'll say, in my healing process, I also had to recognize what role did I play in his emotional instability? I could have harmed my partner emotionally and didn't recognize it. So one thing I have always done through this journey is I never place blame on him for what he did. How he did it is something that I just will never respect.
Right.
But he has his reasons, and maybe he just couldn't handle you know being a married man anymore. Maybe it just became overwhelming for him, so the only thing he knew how to do was to just run. Some people are runners. They have patterns
Hmm.
and history of just not wanting confrontation, so the best thing that they do is they flee. It doesn't make it right? No, especially in a marriage, absolutely not.
Hmm.
But I had to also understand, like, hey, maybe he just needed his exit, and
Yeah.
hey, that's okay. That's okay. My focus is not on him. My focus is on me
Hmm.
and what I need to do, so that when I enter another relationship and another marriage, because I absolutely would like to get married again. Um, I am whole and I'm not bleeding my
Mm.
trauma onto my
Mm.
spouse. I
So,
don't bleed it.
so how can, and I think this is a big point of contention, right? Because they always say, and this was, and I hated it. When I say I hated it, I hated this. Happy wife, happy life,
Yeah.
right? But in instances like what we just talked about,
Hmm.
you asking a woman asking a man a question, and oh, I want an honest answer, and then when he answers it honestly, gives him hell, right? Now, if he would have just pacified you and said, "Oh, like you're okay, you're good, oh, hey, man, everything's we're good, right? Happy wife, right? Happy life, right? That discourse doesn't happen, right? But how can both men like how can we have these conversations honestly, right?
Hmm.
If you're asking for honest answers, right? How because I think healing comes from uncomfortable conversations.
Absolutely, it does.
Conversations of the heart, right? No pun intended, right? But just saying, right?
Right.
It happens sometimes in those rough areas, right? So if I say, yo, babe, tell me like if I'm not doing certain things correctly, right? Tell me.
Hmm.
By you telling me, hey, well, I don't like when you do it like this. Hmm. Okay, or I don't like this. Now it gives me something to work on, right? Now it
Yeah.
gives me okay, so now there's communication and I know what I need to work on, right? But what we have a lot of times with men is 20, 30 years of built up animosity, frustration, and things because it's like, well, if I tell her the truth, the whole house is in shambles,
Hmm.
right? So at some point, we've got to have grown conversations, uncomfortable conversations to get to the root of the problem so we could be healthy. And this happens a lot. And I don't know about other nationalities, but it happens a lot in Black households. Even when it comes to the
Absolutely.
parent-child dynamic, we can't have tough conversations with our parents because they can't handle it. They say, oh, well, no, they say all kinds, right? It's like we can't have it, right? So what happens is
Taboo. It's
we have
taboo.
secrets in the family. Oh, I
Yep.
can't tell mom this, so I got to tell you over here, but don't tell mom this. And the same thing with the mom. The mom, oh, they did it, but I can't say oh this. It becomes all of these things, right? Because nobody can have tough conversations, and it happens in a marriage, right? So now what
Hmm.
happens? I can't tell my wife this, so you know what I do? Go to a strip club. I don't like therapy, right?
Have
I
a
don't want
side.
to go, dudes. I don't like therapy, so I'm gonna go to a strip club. You know what I mean? I'm gonna talk to the stripper, right?
Have a
We're gonna have
side.
that intimate
Mhm.
conversation, right? Because I can't
Yeah.
go home and tell my wife the thing because if I do, then the whole house is gonna be upside down, and then now I have no peace, right? Or Susie from accounting, you know what I mean? Hey, yo, hey, oh yeah, man, I could talk to her. I could talk to her, right? It's a
Mhm.
safe space. So all because we can't have tough conversations, right? So it now this stuff bothers me because it's like how can we not have tough conversations, right? are we not mature enough to have these
That's
conversations
what I was gonna say.
if you're
It's about
asking a
maturity.
question, right?
Mhm.
Like, how can we get to the nitty-gritty if everything I say is an offense to you, right? And now you're gonna flip it and say, well, at least I do that and you don't do that. And it's like, well, that wasn't even a topic of conversation. So why am I wasting my time? I'm
I
gonna
think
yes you to
it's
death and pacify you,
yeah.
right? Which is also to me insulting too, because it's like you can't handle it. Where do we go from here?
I think it's more of how we frame our questions, and how we frame our answers. There were times my ex-husband and I would have some hard conversations and he would do really well. Like he
Hmm.
would be honest, he would tell me, what he's feeling, and I'd be like, "Yay, I'm so proud." Like,
Hmm.
and we would get through the hard conversations, but then there were other times where we would have difficult conversations and, he framed it like, "Oh, this is an argument." And I'm like, "Everything is not an argument." Sometimes conversations are going to be tough, and you have to be emotionally available to be able to handle these tough conversations. And sometimes these tough conversations are going to come up more than once. When you damage something, you've done things to damage someone else. They're already on high alert. So if a conversation's come up because, maybe the trust was broken, or, you're trying to rebuild what, like I said, what was broken, it's as far as trust. Yeah, it's absolutely going to be questions. It's going to be conversations. It's going to be, who is this? It's going to be, why did you go here? What are you doing? Because you have to now reassure your partner that, hey, everything is okay. And it's not because your partner is just bugging. No, it's because you did something to damage that relationship. So now we're in the repair phase. And just because we're having a tough conversation, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be angry with you. It doesn't mean that it's going to turn into an argument. Because, like I said, sometimes we had those tough conversations, and he would do really well. Like we do really well. But then there was times where the conversations were tough, and it was just like, all right, I see I'm not going to get nowhere with this, so I'm gonna just let it go. Or I'm not gonna let it go, and I'm gonna turn it up 10 times. And that's just the New York in me. Which brings me to a really short topic. I personally feel that us New York women, we get labeled as aggressive, difficult, all that. And I get it. We can be a little bit spicy, and it also depends on the borough you're from. We could be a little bit spicy, but I feel like no, I have not come across a, a, a guy that can handle me that's not from New York. If that makes sense. It's almost like New York
Hmm.
dudes know how to handle New York women. But when
Hmm.
you start dating in other states or whatever, it's like they fold like paper. And I'm just like, you really about to fold? I'm not even talking to you hard. Like, this is light. This is
I ain't
light
even
work.
talking
And
to
you
you
about
hard.
to
It's
fold.
crazy.
I'm not even I'm talking to you real light, and you folding already. So it kind of makes me feel like, I I the dating
Yeah.
world for me, it's almost like I'm running. As soon as a guy be like, "Oh, hi, beautiful, hi, bye," I'm out
So it
because
seems like you might gotta find your love in New York. Is that what you're saying?
um
Because you about to put New York on high alert. You about to put New York on high alert if you say that. It's breaking
right.
news. We
Listen,
putting it out there. The DM's about to be open for New York City. Is that what you're saying? Is, is that what you're saying?
um,
Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten
right.
Island, like Long Island, like
Listen,
flood, flood, flood the
listen.
DMs. Is that what you're saying?
Now I'm not saying that.
All of New
All
York, let's
listen,
go.
Only the tri-state. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, whatever's for me is going to be for me, but you have to be able to handle everything that comes along with me. Like, that's why I'm talking about meeting someone where they are,
Hmm.
and not lowering your standards to the ground just because you want to have a man by your side, or you want to say, oh, I
Mm.
got a husband. No, 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 no. I'd rather, let me tell you something. I would rather sleep alone in my king size bed surrounded by six pillows before I sleep next to someone who irregulates my nervous
Six.
system. Six.
Why you need six though?
I don't know. I just like to feel safe at night.
Six.
Mhm.
Dang.
I'd rather sleep in my king size bed surrounded by six pillows
My God. Six.
than to sleep to somebody next to somebody's undiagnosed son.
Okay. All right. All right. I hear that. I hear all of that. But the
Because
question was,
it's
do
my
they
nervous
gotta be
system.
from New
I already
York?
got anxiety. You can't heighten my anxiety, and I already have anxiety. That's why I said the space needs to feel safe. I want to just be able to
Yes,
melt and feel safe.
I understand. But the question was, do they have to be from New York City? That was
Nah,
the question.
nah,
You
not,
sure? You
not
sure?
necessarily. Not necessarily.
Because you said no, nah, you said New York are the only one that can handle you.
It just seems like it, I feel like it just seems like it.
So for the men out there who say, but why should we have to handle you? You say what?
It's not a matter of handling me. It's a matter of just being able to be like, yeah, she a little spicy, but she keeps me motivated.
Mm-hmm.
She is my support. She's my backbone. She's there for me when no one else has been there for me. And I've done that.
Mm.
I've done that. And that's the type of love that I want. Like it just has to be, it has to be right, not perfect again, but just right. And no, it doesn't have to be from New York, but I did have Texas on my in my dreams.
Oh, yeehaw. Okay, okay. All right. You get get
Texas
you a
is
nice
calling
country
me.
boy.
Right,
Get you a nice country boy.
specifically Houston is been calling me.
Specifically using, I heard there's some rates out there that's a little high. You can be careful out there. I mean, I don't know. That's what I heard, but we'll check the statistics later. But you know, you have come, right, a
Mhm.
mighty long way,
Oh yeah,
um, in a short amount of time,
yeah,
right? But you've lived a life. Like you've lived a life in
yeah.
terms of things you've been through, things you've endured, things that you have broken the mold from to be where you are today, right? Having a successful career,
Thank
uh,
you.
thriving, it seems like to be just a humanitarian too,
Yeah,
and to be raising some incredible kids, incredible boys in this day and age. It's not easy, especially black boys. Let's
yeah.
be honest, right? In all of the things that men go through and that they go through. So you have to see what they go through and adjust and work through a lot of those things, which is not easy.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like you're a superhero, right? In
Thank you.
your in your own right. And when it comes to the work that you do,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And then also the men that you've produced out there in the world, right? That is a big responsibility. And you know, and like I said before, numerous times, super proud of you as a person, as a human being first, and as a woman, as a black woman,
Thank
doing
you.
all of these amazing things that you're doing, and then having the grace to endure the heartaches, the trials, but then having, right, the ability, the emotional intelligence, the ability, the courage to still want to try love again, to want to build a relationship again,
Yeah.
to want marriage again. That
Yeah.
takes courage because
Yeah.
some people throw in the towel. Yo, listen, I'm tapped out, boss. I got nothing else. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like I'm done. These streets are ghetto. These dating streets, the dating pool got pee in it. I keep hearing all this stuff, right? They're done, right? Everybody's done with everything. The men are done with women. Women are done with men. It's all a thing. But you stand here in the middle of all the chaos, and you said,
Mhm.
"I'm still here. I'm open," right? And to me, with all that you have gone through and you endured, very superhero-ish to me, especially to be raising incredible young men or men and one in process of becoming a man, um, is no easy feat, especially when it comes to motherhood and especially when it comes to parenthood in general, and to also endure your own personal trials and tribulations and then deal with theirs as well. And then deal with your patients' trials and tribulations as well in the behavioral health space. So, you
Yeah.
know, like you're a superhero. You one of one. And definitely salute you in all that you're doing. And I wish you the best. I know that you're going to do incredible things. You are doing incredible things on this new journey of empowerment. And I will always support that and always support you in everything that you do. So I just want you to know that. Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on your platform and have you having me here. And I'm sorry for being a big baby and crying.
That's real.
I try not to show that emotion or
Wow.
part of me, but I'm human. And this just hasn't been easy. I'm still in the thick of it, of the
Yeah.
healing process. But I'm just grateful for the space that I'm in. And I want to just continue to grow. I am working on my t-shirt line. One of the t-shirts I'm wearing, Elimination Season.
Hey.
That's the season that we are in, and it doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean relationship elimination. It's just anything overall that does not serve your well-being, whether it's
Hmm.
family, whether it's work related, whether it's relationships, just anything. We are
Mm.
in elimination season, because our mental health is the most important and most precious thing that we have. And I also just want to say quickly,
Yeah.
for those that don't understand traumatic brain injuries, anybody who has had a TBI, there will always be a shift in how they perceive communication and
Hmm.
conversation, because when the brain has been traumatized, whether it's by blunt force or accident concussion, it can damage the front part
Hmm.
and the back part of the brain. So sometimes we might get frustrated with people and we don't realize, hey, maybe this person had a TBI. That's why they're not connecting the dots to what we're saying. So you have to give grace. You have
Hmm.
to give grace in a relationship, because if your husband or wife experience something like that,
Mm.
you definitely should give grace when it comes to their understanding, because
Hmm.
it's damage to the brain. But
Yeah.
overall, I'm gonna keep this journey going. I got more ideas and things that I'm coming up with. My website will be dropping soon, hopefully within the next 60 days. I'm trying to give
Let's
myself
go.
realistic expectations.
Yeah.
Imperfectly Perfect is my platform. But you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all Naisha Thais. It's my name. But
Hmm.
my website will be Imperfectly Perfect, and that's where you'll just find a lot of inspirational t-shirts. I want people to understand, just because you are divorced, it does not make you desperate.
Mm.
Mm-mm. I'm
Hmm.
divorced, but I'm not desperate.
Mm.
Catch that.
I like that. No, no, no. I caught it early. Early. You know what I mean? I like that. And as we're concluding, if there
Mhm,
is any advice for
mhm.
someone who has concluded their divorce,
Yep.
It's already done.
Yep.
And they say, hey, nah, it's done.
Mhm.
I don't know where to start with this. What would you say?
Letting go does not mean forgetting.
Mm,
And holding on doesn't necessarily mean that you're broken.
mm,
It's okay to breathe. It's okay to breathe.
mm,
You have to let go of what no longer serves you.
mm,
And that's okay because what God has for you is going to be divinely created by his hands.
mm,
But the more you keep looking in that rearview mirror, you're not going to receive your blessing and you're not going to heal properly.
mm,
So just focus on the now, stay
mm,
in the present,
mm,
and try your best not to go to the past. And anybody that continues to talk about your past or bring up, you have the right to eliminate them too, because that is not conducive to your healing.
mm,
So
mm.
that's
Well,
my best advice.
well, we could put a pin in that right there. You said it all. Please go follow, go support. All the links are going to be right here in the bottom. You know what I'm saying? Please check her out. She's doing some amazing things and just support a Black queen. You know what I mean? That's just love. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate you. We honor the work that you do. We need more people like you out there, doing the kind of work that you do. um, and definitely keep empowering, keep going, keep dreaming, keep believing, because what you're gonna do is gonna be amazing. It's gonna blow, right? And there are going to be a lot of people, probably specifically women, that's going to be touched by the ministry that you're creating. So keep going with it and keep doing it.
Thank
Um,
you so
and
much.
this has been another episode of Conversations of the Heart. As always, it is your boy T Till. See you next week. Peace.